This week, we'll be examining parenting issues around adolescence. This particular module also examines some other special issues, such as the effects of divorced parents, single parents, and parenting children with special needs. This particular video, however, is going to focus only on parenting adolescents, and we're going to look at some of the issues surrounding this. The objectives of this particular section are to examine the developmental changes which affect parenting, the problems for adolescents and their parents, and how parents help navigate parenting teens. We'll begin first by examining physical and hormonal changes. We know that as children mature and they enter puberty, that this affects their interaction with friends, with family members, and with parents. There appear to be hormonal changes in both young male and female adolescents, which affect how they interact in their social environment. And this may result in some difficulty in parenting, as parents may see changes in their child that they do not fully understand. There are also neurological and cognitive changes which begin to occur as these changes result in young adolescents analyzing and perceiving events in their lives, information that they perceive differently than they had in the past. There is an increase in their ability to think more abstractly and to think on multidimensional levels. Other cognitive changes which take place are that adolescents tend to become very me-oriented and often can be very demanding of parents' time, can be very demanding of their own independence or wanting their own independence. This is a difficult time for adolescents because it is a time when they are trying to manage the changes that are occurring for them physically, cognitively, and also attempting to establish a sense of identity, their sense of self. They want more independence and they also want more responsibility, but oftentimes it's difficult to manage all the responsibilities that may come with managing schoolwork, maybe responsibilities that are given to them at home, and some adolescents during this time begin to seek employment so that they can have financial independence from their parents. And of course, the social changes which occur as children enter adolescence are really important in the development of sense of self. And once again, their interactions in their social environment. It is at this time that children begin to spend more time with their friends. They choose to spend more time with their friends because this is one of the first times when they may begin to have an opportunity to interact without parent supervision. And it allows them oftentimes to engage in behavior or to act in ways that they normally would not behave if there were parents that were supervising. This can create some emotional distance between adolescents and parents, as parents struggle to perhaps maintain some control over their adolescents. And of course, as teens attempt to wrestle more control away from their parents. We do know that at this time, peers are more influential than parents in the decisions that they make about their lives. And this is one of the reasons that during adolescence, parents often feel it is important to have a sense of who the friends of their children are, because they believe that if the friends of their children are engaging in negative behavior or risk behavior, then of course this increases the likelihood that their children will do the same. As some of the problems that come with adolescence are linked with that independence that they seek. So for instance, we know that when children are 15 or 16, when teens are 15 or 16, they want to learn to drive because this gives them a sense of independence. Their parents, of course, do not have to take them to all their activities, but because they're fairly new drivers, we know that they are more likely, they are more at risk of being involved in accidents. And these accidents can result in injuries to the child, as well as financial costs to the parents. What we have seen through the 20th century, particularly beginning in the middle of the 20th century, is increased sexual activity outside of marriage, and particularly beginning in the teen years. As we have progressed into the 21st century, the research has shown us that teens are becoming sexually active at younger ages. And by the time that individuals complete high school, it is not unusual to have a significant percentage of these teens become sexually active. The number that you see here, of course, is that nearly 3/4 of teens will be sexually active by the time they leave high school. This can vary depending on the communities, and it can vary on the type of school that is attended. But we certainly know that sexual activity in the teen years has increased. As a result of this, we saw through the latter part of the 20th century that teen pregnancies also increased. And of course, teen pregnancies can be difficult because young mothers who often bear the responsibility may not have the emotional maturity to deal with caregiving for an infant. And we also tend to see that because they do not have often financial security, it can increase the problems around being a young teen mother. And of course, research has shown us that when individuals' first child is born during their teen years, particularly if this is outside of marriage, that it really affects the ability of the mother to be socially mobile, and she is more likely to struggle with poverty or low income. It's also interesting to note that individuals who marry as teens are likely to divorce in the first 10 years. Some other problems for adolescents, which students have already mentioned in the discussions, are their, particularly Generation C, their increased engagement with electronic media, and particularly social media. We tend to find that social media is really integrated into almost every part of children's lives. I would say that watching 5 hours of social media or electronic in adolescence may actually be a low number. And we are finding that as a result of children spending more time on social media, that it affects their performance in school. It also affects their ability to develop relationships that are not connected to social media. Individuals are likely to become more sedentary and not be as engaged in activities, physical activities, if they spend a lot of time on social media, which of course increases their risk to obesity. And what they're exposed to on social media may also increase the likelihood of initiating sex at earlier ages. And a problem which we have seen for several decades now is eating problems. And I would say that social media has really exacerbated this because it does present young women particularly with an unrealistic image of beauty, which leads to eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa or bulimia. Additional problems for dropouts are, additional problems for adolescents is school dropout rates. And these can vary significantly, again, depending on the social class and the ethnicity of individuals. We know that in communities of color, we have higher dropout rates. This is associated with, of course, social class and the fact that public schools in many of these areas simply do not have the resources to keep adolescents engaged in learning. And of course, dropping out of school can increase risk of becoming involved in various types of deviant behavior. Substance abuse has increased. Substance use and abuse has increased among teens. During the latter part of the 20th century, the beginning of the 21st century, we saw a significant decrease in the number of high school students who were beginning to smoke at these early ages. However, a lot of that progress has been lost with the introduction of vaping and e-cigarettes. And we find that because of the way these were presented to the public, and this includes adolescents, they were presented as a healthy alternative to smoking. We now know that this is not the case and that e-cigs can actually be more addictive because of the degree of nicotine in some of the cartridges, can be more addictive and can have some serious physical effects on teens who may be vaping on a very consistent basis. And of course, alcohol and illegal drugs still continue to be a problem. One of the issues that's being raised in some states now is the legalization of cannabis. And with the legalization of cannabis, we know that adolescents are more likely to have access to cannabis, particularly if somebody in their family is able to legally purchase it. It's also important to notice that the cannabis which is available today is much more potent than the cannabis that was available to perhaps their parents in the 1970s or 80s, were really not aware of the long-term effects of heavy use of cannabis, because that's something that has only been studied recently. Additional problems for adolescents are mental health issues. We know that the pandemic really exacerbated this, the social isolation that came with learning at home. A lot of the difficulties that were associated with remote learning really increased depression and other mental health issues among adolescents. And we've certainly seen this by some of the problems that have been faced by mental health facilities, where teenagers are at increased risk to depression and increased risk to suicide. And we have also seen, as a result of social media, an increase in bullying that has taken place, because instead of simply being bullied at school during school hours, we know that bullying can take place over social media and really be something that is a 24/7 event and can create a great deal of anxiety among those individuals who are being bullied. So how are parents able to navigate all of these very complexities that have come with being an adolescent in the 21st century? The literature shows us that parents who try to maintain too much control over their children, not allow them any independence as they enter adolescence, are really going to have a much more difficult time maintaining a healthy relationship with their children as they begin to struggle for that independence and as they move through adolescence into adulthood. Studies have found that parents who allow independence to their children, but do have some boundaries about what is and is not allowed, offer support to their children in the choices that they make, are going to have a much more successful relationship with their child, and that this will then be noted in the effects of authoritative parenting. Again, authoritative parenting is linked to better outcomes for the child, both in terms of their school performance, fewer behavior problems, and psychosocial maturity. So the 4 keys to parenting that have been found to be useful and beneficial with parenting teens or adolescents is staying connected by providing positive support and working on that relationship, being able to maintain open and honest communication with children, having your teen be comfortable sharing problems with you. And this may be easier for young women than for sons because, of course, the way in which we socialize, males and females, differs. While it is important to offer independence, some degree of independence to adolescents, we know that boundaries must still be set, and that as a parent, you are a parent and not necessarily a best friend. You can have a good relationship without trying to be the best friend of the child. And the techniques that are used in disciplining children should be appropriate for any behaviors that the parents may think are deviating from their expectations. And so again, this comes with really being very straightforward with your teens about what your expectations are, what the boundaries are, and what is expected of them in this relationship as they move into adulthood. These are other ways in which parents can influence their teens. Clear communication, engaging in strict discipline. And the important part here is consistent discipline. So if you, as a parent, are going to tell your child that if they deviate from a particular expectation, for example, curfew, that there will be consequences, and the child does deviate from curfew, then you have to be consistent in actually applying those disciplinary measures that you have told the child will be a consequence of them violating curfew. Importantly, parents should model the type of behavior that they want their children to develop. If they want their children to be honest, they want their children to communicate with them, then parents should similarly be honest with their children and communicate their particular emotions with the child. Parents should encourage their child to begin to develop a sense of self, to make their own decisions, to try and get a sense of what they really want as they begin to enter adulthood, as they are perhaps beginning to consider what they will do after high school. It's important for parents to get a sense of what the child wants to do with their life as they begin to consider pathways into adulthood, and not necessarily what the parents' wishes are, that may not allow any room for the child to consider their own choices. And it is important to realize that, as I said, parenting is important during adolescence, but it's only one of the influences. As adolescents go out more into their social environment and are more likely to be out in their social environment without any type of supervision, we know that there are also other influences that will affect the child's development. And of course, not all adolescents are equal. There are various characteristics, personality differences that will affect how the child interacts with their parents and with their social environment. But it is important for parents to begin to provide some protective factors. And this isn't simply the social support that they provide for their adolescents, but also helping them become engaged in social activities that are positive for their social development. So as I said, this is just a short overview of some of the main points in this module. There are other topics which are discussed in the readings, and I encourage students to look at those and use them to contribute to the discussions. So with that, I'll end this video and look forward to your comments in the discussion.